teenagers, materials related to young learners, teaching approaches and methods related to young learners, age factors, medium of instruction, so those issues. And there is another group which looks into pronunciation, issues related to pronunciation, and then issues related to materials writing, a group on materials writing, and another group on learner autonomy, and then teacher training and education. That's a separate group as part of this organization. They look into issues related to teacher development, teacher education, teacher training. And then we have another group on testing, evaluation, assessment. So all these are part of, yes, English language studies. And there's a group on teacher development, teacher professional development, a group on research in English language studies, for example. And literature, there's a special interest group on literature, which looks into language, literature, culture, and media. And then a group on learning technologies and leadership and management, inclusive practices and special educational needs. This is again one of.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
I think they want to know, can you just tell us more about learner autonomy?
Learner autonomy, yes, yes. See, learner autonomy is about giving agency to the learners. All right, learner autonomy, learner freedom, their rights. So it mainly looks into learner agency. How much of freedom can we give to learners? How much of choice do they have? What kind of decisions they can make in their classrooms? Mostly it's all teacher-oriented, teacher-dominated classrooms, right? But can we give autonomy to learners? Can we help them in learning to learn? See, learning to learn is another interesting thing. So can learners make decisions in the classroom? Can they develop materials? So what kind of choice do they have in our classrooms? That is learner autonomy. Similarly, we look at teacher autonomy, teacher agency. What freedom does a teacher have in designing curriculum, in making classroom decisions? All right. And then there is another group on learning technologies, how technologies are influencing English language studies. And then global issues, one group looking at global issues. And then another group looking at English for specific purposes, English for speakers of other languages, and business English group. So 16 groups related to English language teaching, English language studies. So if you're interested in some of these areas, I think you can go to the website, look at the materials they have developed, the papers presented in the conferences. For example, as you're all mostly from college, university background, I just thought I would look at the literature group, special interest group. This is called IATFL LitSig, Literature Special Interest Group. Now, recently, they have conducted a few webinars. So one of the webinars is about graded readers as literature. How can we use graded readers as literature? Or what is the literary value of graded readers? Rewritten classics, not original classics. These classics have been rewritten, abridged, and there's a whole list of graded materials, graded stories, graded books for school students, for college students. So what is the literary value of rewritten classics? There was a very interesting webinar. And this group also conducted another webinar on designing photo essays when reading short stories. So look at this, photo essays, designing photo essays when reading short stories. And this webinar was actually about, the abstract says, photo essays are a great way to practice students' positioning and composition through different perspectives. It's a great way to practice students, what kind of positions they take, and also their composition skills, looking at this from different perspectives. So this webinar explores how thematic photo essays may be used as an assessment instrument for literature. The presenter will share findings from our research on how photo essays may promote literature appreciation. Participants will leave with ideas to improve students' creative abilities and critical thinking. See how language and literature are interlinked. And then another webinar was by Jeremy Harmer, an expert in English language studies. Already he talked about migrant music, how songs and music can be used in classrooms. So the abstract says, singers have always written about the experience of migration, but how useful is such music for us as teachers of English? After all, most popular music is usually about other things like love, being happy, being sad, being teenagers. What about music of migrants? All right. So he says, how appropriate then are other kinds of songs for language teaching, songs of migration, songs about immigrants and immigration, etc. For surely they too should command our attention in the intercultural world that teaching English as an international language necessarily suggests. So I thought these were all very interesting themes. So look at the way we are, I mean, making this discipline interesting, looking into various issues, and being so passionate about researching certain issues. And recently, I mean, they also have introduced another interesting concept called quick fire presentation online. So this is again IATFL research group. MA TESOL or ELT research scholars, those who are doing MA post-graduation, even those who are doing their PhDs, they have mainly MA students, they have to share their dissertations online. This is called quick fire presentation online event. It will happen in August actually, next month. So as part of this presentations, all MA English language teaching students are invited to present their ideas and work so far, whatever they have done as part of their MA course, they have to present to fellow students in the field in an informal way. So one particular university students, they have to present to students of other universities. The MA ELT or TESOL dissertation quickfire event will be held online and will give you a great opportunity to interact with your peers from different universities in the UK, as well as practice valuable presentation skills while getting useful feedback that can help you finalize your discussion and conclusion chapters. I thought this is also a wonderful idea where students make presentations online, get feedback from the peer group, from the teachers, right? All right. Now, I have also looked into the courses of some of the universities. For example, Department of Linguistics and English Language. All right, they have many research centers. Okay, each university, the English department of each university has research centers. So one of the research centers is called Literacy Research Center. And another center is called Center for Corpus Approaches to Social Sciences. The third one, University Center for Computer Corpus Research on Language. Right? So literacy research, corpus research, and then they have got many different research groups at the MA level, at the postgraduate level. They've got, I think one particular university has got 12 research groups. Every university has 10 or 12 research groups. And some of the research groups are like this: Forensic Linguistics Research Group, Language Ideology and Power Group, Discourse and Text Research Group, Language Testing Research Group, Phonetics Lab Research Group, Cognitive Linguistics Research Group, Second Language Learning and Teaching Research Group. So it's all about ELS, English Language Studies. And the department has research groups on various themes. So it's not just language teaching, it's about cognitive linguistics, it's about language testing, it's about ideology and power group, forensic linguistics, discourse issues. So for example, Forensic Linguistics Research Group, there was an interesting paper called The Reframing of Rape in Extremist Online Discourses. Very interesting paper. And then Language, Ideology and Power Group. These are some of the research studies they have done. The discursive construction of refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants in media. Digitally mediated politics. And then language policy. They're looking at language policies and representation of minority languages. Right-wing populist discourses, including in multimodal texts, and multilingualism in European institutions. And another group, research group called Language Testing Research Group. They're investigating the validity of international and local English language tests used for admissions. See, the kind of tests our universities conduct tests, right? You have screening tests, you have proficiency tests, and they're investigating the validity of these tests. Are they reliable? How valid are these tests? And then assessing spoken academic language proficiency, developing an English proficiency test for teachers. It's a research project. They're developing an English proficiency test for teachers. And then another group called Discourse and Text Research Group. All right, a group on analyzing discourses. So they are looking into issues related to Palestinians, and then second one, trapped, shackled, and bound, restrained metaphors in parliamentary debates on Brexit. See, look at these themes. They're interested in everything that's happening around them. So metaphors in discourses surrounding menopause, stigma, struggle, and support, a corpus-assisted critical discourse analysis. And then there is a phonetics lab research group, which looks into phonetics, speech acoustics and articulation, forensic speech science, speech technology, bilingualism, minority languages, right? So what I'm trying to say is that each department of English language teaching or English language studies will have 10 or 12 such research groups. These groups meet once in 2 weeks, fortnightly meetings where students and research scholars make presentations. They share the progress of their studies. Yeah. So we can learn a lot from other research scholars. It's an opportunity to give and take, like share your research studies and then get feedback. It helps a lot. This is based on my own experience. So, I mean, once I completed this MA course from the University of Lancaster, for example, see, till then, I hardly published any paper in English. I used to write a few papers in Kannada, publish it in newspapers. But once I completed my post-graduation from a foreign university, I was able to publish many research papers in national and international journals. And that is a kind of experience you get. So it's not just teaching, they orient you on doing research, writing research papers. All the term and papers, academic essays I wrote as part of my MA course, I converted them into research papers and published in journals. My dissertation was also published in an international journal. So that is the kind of training you get. That's the kind of first-hand experience you get as part of your course. All right. Now, next, what is also interesting is they've developed a directory of ELT research, directory of UK ELT, the ELT research done in UK. They've developed a directory. If you go to the directory, you will get to see all kinds of studies done over a period of time, maybe from 2010 to 2015. Whatever research studies were done in the field of English language studies, the repository is available online. You can search by author's name, you can search year-wise, or you can search by the titles. So it is easily accessible. So it's open. Anybody can access these research papers. It's compiled by Richard Smith of Warwick University with the help of research scholars and his colleagues. And yeah, so it has got entries from 60 different institutions in UK, 60 different universities, right? These studies, these studies, the directory includes books and chapters in books, articles in journals, conference papers, doctoral theses, and unpublished research, as well as funded projects. Beautifully done. And they define research as, original investigation undertaken in order to gain knowledge and understanding. Original research undertaken to gain knowledge and also to contribute something that's original. And ELT research is defined as referring to any research whose data or findings relate directly to the teaching, learning, or assessment of English as a foreign second or additional language. That's how they define research and ELT research. So my question is, can we develop a directory of research studies done in India, research in English language studies in India? Can colleges, universities collaborate? Can we think of developing a repository, online repository of research studies done in India? Maybe we teachers, research scholars, we have to think in that direction. Universities will have to collaborate. It's not that easy, but I think it's worth doing it. So everybody will know what was done in the past, what is being done, and what is the future direction, right? Okay, and if you look at the American organization, for example, they have an international association called TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages. It's called TESOL, again, very popular international organization. They conduct conferences every year. They give scholarships, and they look at research as, so this is directions for research inquiry. So this is kind of, I'm trying to summarize whatever I've been saying so far. So what are the directions for research inquiry? They look at research from three perspectives. One is individual, from the individual point of view, from the community point of view, and from the societal point of view. So research related to three spheres: individual, community, and societal. If you look at the individual studies, for example, research done at the individual level, then what they say is we can observe, question, and invest. There are three phases, three stages, for example, whenever we do research. One is observe carefully, observe things around you. All right, first is observation, careful observation, reflective observation, reflective thinking, and then question certain, ask questions, then investigate. All right, collect data. So at the individual level, for example, what shapes my understanding of what English language learners need to and can learn? So doing a research study at the individual level, what shapes my understanding of English language learners' needs and requirements? And then question, what, so you'll have to observe, okay? And then question, what alternative understandings exist and what are the implications? You're trying to ask questions, research questions. Alternative understandings exist. What are the implications? And then start investigating. What evidence can I examine? What data can I collect about how learners' language develops? So it's purely an individual study. Now, research is not confined to an individual. You should also go beyond the individual level and do something to the community. All right, so take up issues related to the community. For example, we talked about bilingualism, multilingualism. Look at the community. What different languages are they speaking? How they borrow words from from one language and another, for example. How bilingualism is put into practice at the community level. So, for example, what shapes my understanding of the ways that using language in actual community settings benefits learners? So, what is the impact of language acquisition, of structuring communities in other ways of valuing different kinds of interaction? All right, so you're looking at community practices. So research, you should go beyond the department, beyond your course, beyond your curriculum, and look at the community practices. And then most of the research studies have shared now, for example, they also look into societal issues. See, the kind of language used in parliament, for example, issues related to government policies, global issues. So go beyond individual, go beyond community, and look at the societal issues. So what, for example, what policies, economic conditions, and social goals impact the language learners with whom I work? So how do policies affect my language learners? All right, for example, if introducing English as a medium of instruction, that is a decision of the government, policy decision. We've introduced English as a medium from grade 1 in Karnataka, in government schools, right? Policy matter, but how is it affecting learners? How are the teachers coping with this? What kind of resources, materials are being used? So what is its impact on young learners? I think a very interesting area for research. And the question, what would be, for example, a better world for these language learners look like? So that will be your question. And then accordingly, you can investigate issues related to the topic. Right, so this is what I mainly wanted to talk about today. Yes, so I think if you're interested in English language studies, these are some of the essential readings you should do. Yeah, you can take a screenshot. Essential readings on English language studies. And then if you're interested in doing research, yeah, books on language theories, books on recent approaches and methods. And the last book is about mind matters in second language acquisition. All right, looking at children's psychology. And if you're interested in research methods, these are some of the best books on doing research. For example, Brown and Rogers. The title of the book is Doing Second Language Research, published by Oxford again. And then Research Methods in Education, very useful book. And then Analyzing Learner Language and Appraising Research in Second Language Learning, a practical approach to critical analysis of quantitative research. Very interesting books. That's it. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share today. I leave some time for you to ask questions. If I can answer your questions, I think I'll be
So would you?
Really satisfied. Yeah.
We do have about 10 minutes of time.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Vaishali ma'am, can you please unmute yourself and
Yeah, we have. So we have 10 minutes, is it? Or at least we have about 7 minutes. I think in the next 7 minutes, we can engage in this kind of a debate. I'm sure there will be many queries.
All
So
right,
at
yeah.
least we can, if you could take in some of them, at least 3 or 4, and then we can conclude.
Yeah.
So participants, go ahead and type your questions in the chat box. I'll take up one by one within this given 7 minutes here. Quickly.
About 3 or 4 queries, Babita, quickly.
Fine, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. We've started getting questions, sir. The first question is they want to, what should one do if you want to start a career as a writer?
Career as a writer, I think, yeah. Career as a
Please,
writer.
questions pertinent to English language studies. I mean, which are pertaining to his lecture. So the other questions, queries can of course be posted.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we will give you a couple of 1 minute. Go ahead and type in your queries if you wanted to know more about what sir was discussing in terms of all the research possibilities there in ELT.
Yeah, writer, if you want to become a technical writer, for example, you need to undergo separate training. So, I mean, writer, what kind of writer? Is it a creative writer or a technical writer? All right, there are many opportunities available. You need to be specially trained for that. Technical writing is a potential field for career.
So I do have another question, sir, for you.
Yeah.
How do we use? How do we inculcate, this research attitude and probably some of the methods in teaching English at high school level?
Okay, at the school level, right? How can we use research attitude and method at teaching English at high school level? Yeah. So there are 2 types of research actually. One is called academic research, which happens at the college university level. It's called academic research, pure research, right? The other one is called action research, or we also call it classroom research. This is gaining momentum these days. Teachers are doing research in their classrooms. So we are helping teachers to become researchers. So what are the issues related to classroom pedagogy, classroom teaching and learning? So it's, I mean, again, teachers will not become researchers in a day or 2. It's a long process, right? It takes time. They need a special orientation on exploring classroom issues, identifying problems. What is important is, I think, teachers should become reflective, start asking questions to himself. So once you have that research attitude is questioning yourself, becoming reflective, more and more reflective, and documenting your experiences. If you can start writing about your experiences, like if you can maintain a reflective journal, reflective diary, that I think helps you in developing a research attitude. And so the key thing is you have to start asking questions about what you're doing. Teaching should not become a routine. If you have 20 years of experience, it is not 1 year of experience, which is repeated for 19 years, right? So, I mean, end of the class, you need to think what went on well in the class, what didn't go well, how can I improve? I think that is research. All of us are researchers in a way. So once you start asking questions, examining what you're doing, becoming reflective, I think you are a researcher.
You were talking about directory of research in ELS in India.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
So can you tell us about such initiatives taken, in the academia here in the,
right.
Indian subcontinent, and some of the exciting, trends that you have seen?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, yeah. Actually, yes, madam. English EFL University, English and Foreign Languages University, they have initiated this in collaboration with the British Council. I think they worked on a project for about 2 years. They started collating data, and then they've developed a repository, but somehow I think they were not able to take it forward. I think mainly because they didn't get much support from other Indian universities. I think people don't want to share research studies, and then they don't want to make it public. So it's there in bound books. Yeah, it's there in as physical books in the libraries, but making it accessible, making it open, I think is a challenge, is an issue. Yeah, so initiatives have been taken, but I think it's there. I think the directory is still available, but we don't have much data there.
So one last question. Yeah. How relevant would TBLT would be for online classes?
TBLT for online classes, yes. Whether it is online or offline, what is important is, I think, the appropriate methodology. Yes, whether you're teaching in a physical classroom or teaching online. See, before you start using any materials, for example, you should, again, so does it support your pedagogy? So what is the best pedagogy? What is the most appropriate methodology for online teaching? So TBLT or communicative teaching, whatever method, it gives you certain principles of language acquisition. So once you're aware of the fundamental principles of language teaching, language acquisition, so those are the guiding forces. I think there are no, I mean, you don't have a separate pedagogy for teaching online. TBLT, you can apply the principles for online teaching. So I think any teaching for that matter should be based on sound principles of language teaching. Yeah, so it's TBLT, there's nothing great about TBLT or communicative teaching for that matter. But what is important is making your online teaching learner-centered, all right? Not encouraging rote learning again. See, anyway, regular classrooms, we encourage cramming textbook content, learning by heart and all that. But again, are we doing it in online teaching as well? Are we spoon feeding, giving them a lot of information? All right, is it again teacher-directed, teacher-oriented, or how best are we involving students in our online classes? So giving them opportunity. Are we able to do group work? Are we able to have presentations by students? How do we assess their performance online? These are all based on sound pedagogical principles. I think, yeah, TBLT, I'm understanding these latest approaches, methods will help.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir, for such an informative session. We thoroughly enjoyed this. Especially my takeaways from this session was, about the e-portfolio that you spoke about. Yeah. Going to be a big thing. CBSE has made it mandatory. Portfolio is mandatory part of schools. But then I think this is going to be the way forward for us, because we are going to be, for the next 6 months, I only foresee a blended and online learning here. So
that's right.
Thanks to you, sir. Over to you, ma'am, to make the concluding remarks, and please thank our resource person.
Yeah, sure. I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you, Babita. Thank you, Vaishali madam, and thanks everyone for your participation. Thank you so much for the opportunity given.
Vaishali,
yes,
I would. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Heartiest congratulations to Professor Ravi Narayan for this excellent lecture. Truly insightful and a brilliant orientation session for all of us. It has truly reorientated all of us to the exciting dimensions in English language studies. In fact, it has been a nebulous territory for us. And so quickly but so effectively, you did a historical overview of the changes and the shifts also, and the shifts in trends in English language teaching and English language studies, and how research has been steadily integrated into language studies, and the hitherto unseen multitudinous kind of challenges and dimensions that are there in English language studies. And it's truly a very invaluable kind of a session, because we got very rich inputs about the field from you. Thank you for us. Thank you for sensitizing us to the rich possibilities in this domain. And I'm deeply indebted to you because at a very short notice, I think I contacted you only about a couple of days ago, and you were there, and we remain so deeply indebted for all the support that you have extended to us. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. It was a pleasure.
I would also like to say this series of webinars will continue, and next 2 sessions will be on 17th and 20th, and shortly the topics and the names of resource persons will be announced. Thank you very much, Professor Ravi Narayan, for this erudite, richly informative and eloquent lecture. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
So thank you, participants. It was nice having you today. We are looking forward to your participation on 17th and the 20th. Have a good day. Thank you. Ma'am, I'm ending the meeting for now. Thank you.